You know that specific kind of torture where your internal engine is just screaming?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're redlining, you are completely ready to go, but the car itself is just, it's stuck in park.
That is a very visceral way to put it, and yes, I think everyone knows exactly that feeling.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. I'm your host, and I'm here with our resident expert to unpack that exact feeling. It's the absolute worst, right?
It really is.
It's that agony of wanting something so badly. Maybe it's a promotion you've been working toward for years, or, you're launching a startup and the funding hasn't come through.
Or a relationship you're trying to figure out.
Exactly, a relationship, but the timing just isn't there.
Yeah.
You feel stuck. You feel like you're just waiting.
Mhm.
And I feel like in our culture, waiting essentially feels like losing.
It does. I mean, we were totally wired for speed.
Yeah.
The modern narrative is that if you aren't moving, you're dying. If you aren't shipping a product, you're failing. But today, we are going to explore a philosophy that completely flips that narrative on its head.
I am so ready for this.
We're diving deep into the fifth hexagram of the I Ching, which is known as Zhu.
And right here is where we have to do a little redefinition right off the bat. Because if you look up zoo in a standard translation, it usually just says waiting,
Right.
which sounds completely passive. It sounds boring. It sounds like sitting at the DMV staring at a broken TV screen.
And that translation error has actually misled people for centuries.
Yeah.
If you look at the etymology, the character Zhu doesn't just mean waiting. It implies need. It implies desire. It is the kind of waiting a hungry person does for food or, a drought-stricken farmer does for rain. It is not passive sitting. It's a highly active state of tension.
I really love that distinction. So we aren't talking about idling because you're lazy. We are talking about active waiting. Or maybe idling with power.
Idle with power, exactly. To really grasp why this is so difficult, though, you have to visualize the structure of this hexagram.
Right.
Remember, the I Ching is built on these 6-line symbols in use. The lower part, which represents the internal state of the person, is the trigram for heaven.
And for those of you who aren't, ancient philosophy scholars, heaven usually means what? Pure energy.
Yes. Think of it as pure creative drive, strength, rigidity. It's the metal of the engine. It wants to shoot forward, and it has zero brakes. It is the absolute masculine principle of action.
Okay, so internally, I'm bulletproof and I'm ready to launch. I am a Ferrari just revving my engine.
Correct. But the upper part of the hexagram, the external environment you are facing, is a trigram for water.
And water isn't always a nice beach day in this context.
Not at all. Here, it represents danger. It represents a deep pit, a treacherous abyss, or a massive storm.
So let me just get the visual straight. Internally, I am all systems go.
Yeah.
Externally, I am parked on the edge of a cliff facing a jagged, stormy ocean.
That is the conflict right there. That is the trap. If you follow your natural instinct and charge ahead with all that energy, you fall into the pit and you die.
Wow.
But if you wait incorrectly, if you let that energy just rot inside you, you wither away. You rust.
So the entire mission of this deep dive is to figure out how we navigate that tension. How do we actually master the art of waiting without destroying ourselves in the process?
Precisely.
Because I feel like most of us we oscillate between panic and depression when we're stuck.
We do. And to break that cycle, we have to learn how to navigate the 6 stages of desire. But before we even start the journey through the specific stages, the philosophy lays out what I like to call the preconditions.
Preconditions, like a prerequisite.
Think of it as a contract you have to sign before you're even allowed to want something.
I really like the sound of a contract. Let's unpack the terms of that. What are the rules of engagement here?
So the first rule is called Yufu. It translates roughly to belief or trust. The concept is very specific. You have to distinguish waiting from gambling.
That's a sharp distinction. How do you tell the difference in real life?
Gambling is anxiety. It's when you are sitting there thinking, what if it never happens? What if I'm just wasting my time?
That low-level hum of panic.
Exactly. That's gambling. True waiting requires absolute faith that the rain will eventually fall. It's a complete regulation of the nervous system.
So if you don't have that fundamental belief that the result is inevitable, you aren't waiting. You're just stressing.
You're just stressing out.
That hits home. It's like when you order something online. You don't sit by the front door screaming at the driveway.
No, you don't.
You know it's coming. But if you're constantly refreshing the tracking number every 10 seconds on your phone, you don't actually trust the process.
Precisely. You're trying to control the uncontrollable because you lack faith in the outcome. Now, the second rule is guangheng, which means growth. This distinguishes accumulating from internal friction.
Explain that one. What does friction actually look like in this context?
Well, if the act of waiting makes you feel small or ashamed or like you're shrinking, you're doing it wrong. Correct waiting is a time to shine. You should be accumulating resources, knowledge, health.
Okay, so if you are deteriorating while you wait.
Right. If you're losing sleep, losing confidence, losing your actual health,
Yeah.
you are violating the contract.
So if you're sitting around feeling like a total loser because you haven't made it yet and you're just eating junk food and doom scrolling, you aren't active waiting.
You're just rotting.
You're rotting. Wow.
Exactly. Waiting should be a period of caloric accumulation, not depletion. And the third rule is leche d'achuan, or crossing the Great River. This is about distinguishing the means from the ends.
Meaning the waiting itself isn't the point.
Right. Waiting is not the goal. The goal is to cross the danger. You have to be building the boat while you wait. If you're just standing on the shore complaining about how wet the water is, you'll never cross.
Okay. Belief, growth, and preparation. That's the mindset. If we can lock that in, we can handle the actual journey.
Now, the philosophy breaks this down into 6 stages, or lines. And this first half, the first 3 stages, is all about the internal battle.
Right. And it's really important to note that in this first half, nothing has actually happened yet. The reality is perfectly quiet. The danger is still far away.
Hide your mind.
Your mind is chaotic. This is energy idling.
So, stage 1. The ancient text calls this waiting in the outskirts.
Yes. You are in the Jiao, the outskirts. This is the fantasy phase. You are far from the danger, but you are also very far from the goal.
Like when you've just had the big idea.
Exactly. You've just decided you want the promotion. You've written the brilliant manifesto on a diner napkin.
This feels like the honeymoon phase of a project. It's all excitement, zero reality.
Yeah.
Why is this hard? It sounds fun.
It is fun, initially. But the trap here is burnout. The strategy we are given is utilize constancy. Think of a soldier before a war.
Okay.
He doesn't know if the battle is tomorrow or next month. But what does he do? He cleans his gun, he eats his rations, he sleeps. He keeps his routine. He doesn't go run sprints around the camp until he collapses just to prove to everyone he's ready.
Exactly. The mistake people make in the outskirts phase is they get so incredibly excited, they disrupt their entire biological rhythm. They stay up all night planning, they skip meals, they neglect their families.
They burn all their fuel on the launch pad before the rocket even takes off.
Yes.
That is such a common founder mistake. You get a new business idea and suddenly you stop going to the gym and you stop sleeping because the vision is so big. And the advice here is strangely mundane. It's basically just be boring.
Be boring so you can be dangerous later. Don't let the dream destroy your daily life. That's the lesson. But then, inevitably, time passes. You move closer to the goal. Stage 2 is waiting in the sand.
The sand. Okay, metaphorically, we are getting near the river now.
We are. The ground is getting unstable.
Yeah.
Walking in sand creates friction. It's annoying. And specifically, the philosophy mentions small words.
Small words. That sounds a lot like code for gossip.
It is gossip, criticism, skepticism. See, in the eyes of the world, stillness looks like incompetence.
Oh, that is so true.
If you are waiting strategically, say you're holding off on a product launch until the market turns to your friends and family, it just looks like you're failing.
Right. They start asking, hey, I thought you were launching that business. Why hasn't it happened yet?
Yes.
Ugh. That is the absolute worst feeling. And the temptation is to immediately snap back, right? To explain yourself, to whip out the spreadsheets and the market analysis.
That is the trap. The text calls for bluntness. You need a thick skin, because explaining yourself is an energy leak.
An energy leak?
Yes. If you stop to argue with everyone who doubts your timing, you are wasting the exact energy you need to actually cross the river later.
So the strategy is what? Just ignore them? That's really hard when it's your mom asking.
It's incredibly hard. But the strategy is physical shielding. Treat the criticism as background white noise. Do not explain. Explaining implies you need their validation to proceed.
And you don't.
You don't. You need to save your breath for the swim. If you engage with the small words, you get stuck in the sand.
Explaining is an energy leak. That is a massive takeaway. I think a lot of us over-explain because we're secretly insecure about the weight.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. Stage 3. This seems to be the really dangerous one. Waiting in the mud.
This is the critical moment of the lower trigram. You aren't just in the sand anymore. You've got one foot fully in the sludge.
You're stuck.
You are obsessing. You are stuck. And the consequence listed is fascinating and a bit cryptic. It calls it bringing bandits.
Bringing bandits. Okay, does that mean actual robbers show up, or is this another metaphor?
It's deeply psychological. Think about it. You are stuck in the mud. You are anxious. You are defensive. So you start looking at everyone around you as a potential threat.
Oh, wow. You start projecting your own insecurity onto them.
Exactly. So you create the enemy.
That is wild.
Because you are flailing and hostile, you view everyone as a competitor. You view everyone as someone trying to steal your prize. And because you treat them like enemies, they become enemies. You manifest the conflict.
That is a total self-fulfilling prophecy. You're so worried about someone taking your spot that you act like a jerk, and then people actually try to take your spot because you're being a jerk.
Precisely. The bandit might have just been a passerby. They might have even been someone coming to help pull you out of the mud. But your hostility turned them into a bandit.
So what do you do if you're in the mud? Because every human instinct says to fight.
And instinct is completely wrong here. The strategy is to stop struggling. Stop reacting. The philosophy says to realize that you're flailing is what is attracting the danger.
Okay.
If you can just calm down, even while your foot is stuck, the bandits often just walk on by. It's about the de-escalation of the self.
That's a seriously hard discipline. To be stuck and not thrash around requires immense control. It reminds me of quicksand. The more you struggle, the faster you sink.
It is exactly like quicksand. And this brings us to the major shift. We are now leaving the lower trigram, the internal mental battle, and entering the upper trigram, the water, the external reality.
Right. So up until now, this has all been in our heads or just hanging out on the shoreline. Now we are actually in the water. We are in the pit.
And ironically, for many people, the anxiety actually vanishes here.
Really? Why?
Because when you are actually in a crisis, survival instincts take over. You don't have time to worry about what if. You just have to act.
This is stage 4, waiting in blood. That is a heavy image. It sounds like a horror movie title.
It is meant to be jarring. You are in the pit. You are literally bleeding. This stage is all about the cost of winning. The philosophy asks a brutal question here. If the trophy costs you a leg, do you still want it?
Ah, we're talking about the sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly. You've invested so much time, so much money, so much emotion. You feel like you absolutely have to keep going. But the strategy for stage 4 is get out of the pit.
It sounds obvious when you say it, but in practice, it's so hard. It feels like giving up. It feels like admitting failure after all that waiting in the outskirts in the sand.
But it isn't giving up on life. It is realizing that the return on investment is negative. It's a cold economic decision. Stop the bleeding. Refuse to let the past hold the future hostage.
Right.
If you're waiting in blood, you are dying for a prize that isn't worth it.
Yeah.
You have to climb out.
So sometimes the art of waiting is actually knowing when to stop waiting and just leave.
Yes. Sometimes the boat isn't coming, or the river is just too wide, and you have to save yourself. Which leads us to the pivotal moment, stage 5. This is the turning point of the entire journey, waiting with wine and food.
Okay, finally. We went from blood to wine. I really like this progression. But wait, we're still in the danger zone, right? We're still in the upper trigram, in the water.
We are right in the middle of the danger. The storm is raging all around. The situation hasn't been solved at all. But the person in stage 5 is sitting down, eating a good meal, and having a drink.
That sounds kind of insane. Or is it denial? Like that meme of the dog sitting in the burning house saying, "This is fine."
It's not denial. It is sovereignty. It is the ultimate power move. It's saying to the universe, you can delay my goal. You can surround me with danger, but you cannot break my spirit.
Oh, I see. It's like being in the eye of the typhoon.
Exactly. It is self-sufficiency. In the earlier stages, in the sand and the mud, you were miserable because you didn't have the thing, the job, the lover, the money.
Right.
In stage 5, you realize, I can exist without the thing. I can still enjoy this meal. I can still sleep soundly.
It's using biological pleasure eating, drinking, resting as a shield against psychological collapse?
Yes. It stabilizes the spirit. It's a declaration that you are okay right here, right now. And paradoxically, once you reach this state of not needing it to be happy, that is often when the blockage clears.
It's the classic phenomenon where you detach from the outcome and suddenly the outcome arrives. It happens when you stop looking. It's like when you stop trying to frantically find your keys, they just appear on the kitchen table.
Which brings us to the final stage, stage 6, entering the cave.
The cave. That sounds safe, like a shelter. We finally made it.
You made it. You got the job, you retired, you finished the project, you found your safe spot.
So roll credits, happy ending.
Not quite. The philosophy is realistic. It doesn't believe in happily ever after. It says, entering the cave, 3 uninviting guests arrive.
just when you think you're done. Who are these guests?
They represent variables. Disruption, the twist in the third act. The lesson here is about anti-fragility.
Okay.
If your goal was to build a sealed room where nothing can ever hurt you again, you've basically built a tomb. Life is disruption.
So you finally get the corner office, and on day one, 3 massive lawsuits walk in the door. Or you finally retire to the quiet countryside, and a family with a drum set moves in next door.
Exactly. And the strategy is Jingzia. Treat them with respect. Honor the uninvited guests.
Why would I honor the people ruining my peace? That feels totally counterintuitive.
Because the things that break your plans are often the God-sent partners for the next chapter of your life.
Oh, wow.
If you try to bar the door, you create conflict. If you invite them in, you evolve.
That is a very powerful reframing. The disruption isn't an error in the code, it's the sequel.
Correct. If you fight the guests, you go right back to the mud. If you welcome them, you start a new cycle.
So looking back at this whole journey from the outskirts to the cave, there is this weird paradox the philosophy mentions, the scissors gap. Can you explain that? This feels like the key to the whole puzzle.
This is the synthesis of the whole deep dive. Think about the first half. Waiting in the outskirts, the sand, the mud.
Okay.
Externally, the world was quiet. Nothing was really happening yet. But internally, the person was manic, anxious, creating enemy.
Right. Quiet world, loud mind.
Then look at the second half. Blood, wine, the cave. Externally, the world is completely chaotic. There is blood, there are storms, there are intruders. But internally,
The person is eating.
eating, drinking, treating guests with respect, they're totally calm.
Loud world, quiet mind.
The goal of the art of active waiting is to flatten this gap. Why do we have to wait for the crisis to become calm? Why do we waste our peace when things are quiet?
We burn ourselves out on nothing.
Exactly. The master cultivates stillness when nothing is happening, so they can have stability when everything is happening.
That is the ultimate takeaway. We spend so much energy freaking out when there's actually no danger, just delay. And then we are too exhausted to handle the actual danger when it finally arrives.
Exactly. We borrow trouble from the future and pay interest on it. The text is telling us to stop paying that interest.
And remember, once you let those 3 uninvited guests into your cave, you have to leave the cave. You re-enter society.
You do.
And that actually sets up the next hexagram in the sequence, which is song, or conflict. Because once you interact with people again, conflict is inevitable. But that is a story for another time.
Indeed. It never ends. It just changes form.
So here is what we want to leave you with today, a little visualization to take with you into your week.
Yes. Think about the thing you are currently waiting for, the thing you want most right now, and ask yourself, where are you in the journey?
Or are you waiting in the mud, flailing around, checking your phone every 5 seconds, creating enemies out of sheer anxiety? Or can you find a way to be waiting with wine and food?
Are you able to enjoy your dinner? Truly enjoy it, despite the uncertainty hanging over your head? Can you find sovereignty in the delay?
Because, as we've learned today, the highest form of discipline isn't running a marathon or pulling an all-nighter.
No. The highest form of discipline is sleeping soundly when your ambition is burning a hole in your pocket.
That's beautifully said. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one.